Well, I slept, but fitfully, and for definitely not long enough, because I didn't go to bed till like 30, and I decided to feed him. I went to bed at almost 3, and I decided to feed him rather than have him wake me up like in a couple hours. So I slept, but fitfully. Like I said yesterday, the pipeline, what happened in the Merrimack Valley yesterday, that pipeline disaster, it turned, 3 cities, it made them look like someone said on the news, or a public official or something, like a war zone. Inexcusable, okay? But the sad fact of the matter is, we, all of us, we put our lives in the hands of total strangers every single day, okay? And if those strangers don't care enough to not be careless, disasters like this are virtually inevitable, okay? And yes, it's affecting me big time because it didn't happen like thousands of miles away from me or even hundreds of miles away from me, understand? It happened virtually in my own backyard, if we want to be blunt. I wouldn't be saying that if it happened in another state, but it didn't. It happened in my state, okay? And there's no excuse for it. I liken it to nobody with that many lives in their hands. People aren't going to just not put clothes on in the morning and go to work naked or something, except maybe, it happens in dreams, but then you find out that you didn't really do it. Thank God. It's not true, okay? So something like this should never happen. If this is actually not a direct, intentional act of sabotage, okay, and it's just derived from fucking inexcusable human error. Like I said, one of my viewers said this is human error. Some moron technicians didn't change stuff over there and didn't check the pressure. I mean, there's no excuse for that. You understand? There is no excuse. That should not happen anymore. But we put our lives in the hands of total strangers all the time. We go up in planes trusting that the maintenance person, the person who's supposed to make sure that everything's okay with the plane, isn't sleeping on the job. And instead of doing maintenance on the plane, checking to make sure everything's okay. And I told you there was a 2020 or a Nightline special, whatever, that caught someone somewhere in the United States, and you know if it's happening in the act. It turned out it's someone who has 3 jobs, and he was caught sleeping when he was supposed to be maintaining the plane. Checking so that something doesn't happen where hundreds of lives are lost. So if people don't give a fuck, if they're careless, if they're goofing off, but something this important. The telling thing was when my news was saying, the interesting thing is that they had sent out paperwork in that area that they were going to be doing something that would make things much better for everybody and much safer for everybody, yeah. And if you put that kind of shit in the hands of just one or a couple people rather than have it be overseen, like you know what I mean? Like it should, that kind of thing should be, no excuse. There's no excuse for this to have happened. And like I said, I'm not being paranoid to say it could have happened anywhere. It still could. I sarcastically said, how do I know this is going to happen in my area tomorrow? As I sat there in horror watching it take place on the TV and knowing that it was in my own backyard practically. These poor people, poor Leanne or whatever, didn't have time to react like News 5 said, and people on News Center 5 said, and crushed by an exploding chimney where he was sitting in someone's, he didn't even live there, he was sitting in someone's driveway visiting, and the house, I guess, next door exploded and the chimney crushed his car, and he didn't die instantly, but he died a couple hours later. He died a few hours, a couple hours later. He died. He was transferred to the hospital. He didn't die instantly. He was the one that they said was critical, and he died. There was one that was serious, so who knows what kind of injuries that could be. Lost limbs, I mean, it could be anything. And then what's going to happen, like in any of these fucking bullshit things, if they derive from carelessness. We're sorry, and then there'll be lawsuits up the yin-yang for the Columbia gas, but then life goes on as usual until the next thing, you know? But something like this shouldn't happen. There should be safeguards in place that this doesn't happen. If you are planning some kind of thing to make everything safer for people in that area, make everything more lucrative, you know, more cost efficient, whatever, you need to have 100 people overseeing it, you know, 100 people in your company overseeing it and making sure something bullshit, careless thing like this doesn't happen. And this is me only going by, you know, I'm just going by the assumption if it wasn't intentional. If it was intentional, then negate everything I just said, because we can't, I mean, like I said, what's going to be the next thing? None of us imagine this could ever happen. That's why the news people in the area on Channel 5 News are saying to everybody, first responders, like, have you ever seen anything like this in your life? And they're saying no. They're talking about Armageddon. They're talking about, you know, it looking like a war zone over there. And if this derives from fucking carelessness, I did not sleep good or well, whatever it is, good or well. I didn't sleep very, very good, very well. I still haven't gotten a handle on the difference between those two, so I often just, in my videos, say both of them to cover my ass, but despite being an English major in college, far, far, far from perfect in that area. I actually don't even know how far that is away from me. I know the truth. But I do know it's not hundreds of miles or thousands of miles away, you know what I mean? I can't be watching that play out on the TV and thinking about all those thousands of displaced people and where are they going to go. There's not enough shelter room. My news said it. Where did they go? Do they sleep in the streets in horror? I mean, or also people who have pets. There are people who stayed in their homes. They're just going to stay there in the dark because the power was shut off everywhere. The power was shut off in every home in Lawrence, North Andover, and Andover yesterday. And like my news was saying, people, I say my news, that's the primary one I watch, News Center 5, but like my news was saying, these people don't even have answers. They don't even. There was supposed to be a press conference, and they didn't have Jimmy Kimmel on, and they kept waiting and waiting. And finally, they said, it's midnight. We don't know when this press conference is going to be, but stay on this. You know, if it happens, we'll interrupt. Whatever. That's what they said. But I stopped watching. I stopped waiting. What can they say? Yesterday they were just addressing the horror, just trying to get the horror under control. People are going to want, figuratively, heads to roll. People are going to want answers. And yesterday they had no answers whatsoever. And they may still not have any answers. In Columbia, yes, not surprisingly, wasn't talking. That's what my news center said. We reached out. They're not talking. They're not talking. Of course they're not. Shut them down. seriously, have so many fucking lawsuits against them that they're shut down, but it doesn't change the fact that it can happen anywhere at any time, hence my, how do I know it's not going to happen in my area or my mom's area tomorrow? We are all dependent upon total strangers not being fucking careless with our lives! Just like you wouldn't go to work naked. That's how much you should not be careless with our lives when it comes to something like this. I didn't even know. How many of us didn't know something like this could even happen? I didn't even know something like this could happen. We're in 3 different cities all at once because of some careless technician or intentional act of terrorism sabotage. Fires can break out across miles and all simultaneously. I mean, I didn't know that could happen. Did any of you know that could happen? I didn't. I did not know something like that could happen. So, you know what? Most of us are not in those kinds of jobs. Most people aren't in those kinds of jobs where you have hundreds of thousands of people's lives in your hands. As I asked you, how come every fucking house didn't catch on fire and explode? Like the tunes of, like, why was it only 70 versus 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000? That's what I don't know either. My news said it affected 100,000 people. So why didn't everybody's house burn and explode? You tell me. Because I don't know. I don't understand. I never imagined, never in my wildest imagination, something like this could happen. I wouldn't think it could. Do I know that one house can explode? Yes. I know of cases like that, even personally, okay? I'm not going to say who. Of course I know shit like that can happen. But I do not know that somebody, a stranger, can do maintenance on something, or if this is the case where they were making it supposedly making it better, and someone fucked up, as my guy wrote, some moron technicians didn't check the pipeline pressure after putting in new something or other, then that's carelessness inexcusable. Inexcusable. As in, Columbia Gas needs to be sued up the yin-yang, shut down, but it doesn't change the fact that it could happen with any other gas company. It could happen. I mean, I didn't know it could happen at all. So how do I know it's not gonna fucking happen in my area today? How do I know I'm not gonna turn on the TV a little later after I walk Omar and hear that it happened somewhere else? Here, in another state, or whatever. I never knew it could happen at all. I didn't. Not on a mass, widespread scale like that, where like one person was saying, one first responder was, or someone who came to help. Because people came from all over the area to help, And one, he said, the only thing I can compare this to is a time when the whole block, something happened with the whole block, okay? And I forget what area he said. But this, 3 different cities, boom, boom, fires, gas odors, explosions, miles and miles away, 3 different cities, and you look on the map, and all at once. Don't tell me that couldn't happen anywhere at any time. What reassurance do we have when total strangers have our lives in their hands and they're fucking careless with our fucking lives? And then all the people at Columbia Gas, or whoever did this, whoever caused this, unless it was intentional, oops, sorry, made a mistake. Yeah. Tell that to the dead and injured. Tell that to the people whose homes exploded and they lost everything, They may have not lost their lives, but they lost all their, precious possessions or things that are irreplaceable. Like I would say, if it happened here, I would lose, irreplaceable to me things. My nearly 1,000 original songs and poems that span the last more than 40 years that are 100 pictures, but I have I took hours and hours and hours and hours in California, here, even would get up early and go to see, even when I was in shelter, I took time to at different CVS's and whatnot. I would travel and do the Kodak picture maker, so all my pictures are, quote, safe, unquote, online, but even that's not a guarantee, because as we know, we have no security anymore. We can lose the internet in a second, too, you know. But I would lose my 120, 30 plus hardcover journals that span the last, they span almost my whole life, too, because I have a diary I wrote when I was 10. It ends where it talks about the abuse of alcoholics, but it ends where it just stops. And it was right before I turned 11, and my mom had her, you know, went crazy, and I didn't know what was going on. And she had her first of many nervous breakdowns over the abuse of alcoholic cheating on her. It was okay when he's an abusive alcoholic, but he cheats on her and the world ends. The idea of losing him. Careful! You can't see, you bumped Mama's elbow. Anyway, if that happened here, everyone has stuff like that that's irreplaceable to them. It has no monetary value, you know. All these people lost their homes. They have, you know, and there are people, at least one that we know of yesterday, who lost an 18-year-old kid with his whole life ahead of him, Lionel lost his life. 18, kid, doing nothing but sitting in his car in the driveway and not expecting Armageddon to just suddenly happen out of the blue. At least when he's sitting on my lap, he's not off sneaking around and pooping on the floor, right? Unbelievable. Like I said, I'm not the only one who just, even my new set of 5, they were in shock. Because I didn't know something like this could happen. You have to understand. And if it's just derives from fucking strangers being careless with hundreds of thousands of lives or whatnot, then none of us are safe. None of us are safe. The fact of the matter is, people nowadays, just too many people do not give a shit. You know, case in point, one of those specials, those Nightline, Dateline, whatever specials, caught sleeping on the job, a maintenance worker whose job was to inspect that plane to make sure it was safe for the hundreds of passengers that were going to be flying on it the next day. No. He was fucking sound asleep. Alright? Every fucking day of our lives, we you know, probably in ways unbeknownst to us, because this Merrimack Pipeline disaster, Merrimack Valley Pipeline disaster, I would have never imagined could happen anywhere at any time. To that catastrophic extent, no. So, what else is going on? Like, someone being careless in a nuclear plant, you know? We don't know what safeguards are in place. We don't know what is going on behind the scenes, where it could be also an inside act of terrorism, you know, where something catastrophic could happen. Like, we're not safe anymore. This shit did not happen when I was growing up. This shit did not happen when I was in my 20s. This shit didn't even happen, you know what I mean? But young people nowadays, this is their reality. They know nothing else, you know? They know nothing else but this kind of shit, you know, and wonder if any people's pets died. There are people there, like, they're not gonna leave. That woman online, she was interviewed and she was in tears practically, and she's like, I heard about this happening. I turned on the news, probably on her smartphone or something. If she's on her way home from work, she doesn't have access to a TV, you know. But whatever, she says, and I saw my neighbor's house in flames, and she's like, I can't talk. I have to go see if my dog and cat are okay. You know, I have to check on the animals. There's probably, I mean, there was at least one human death, and I'm not going to be surprised to find out if there's at least one or more pets, people's beloved to them pets, died or got seriously injured or whatnot, you know. And they weren't doing anything, but I said, it started happening. But when the first one happened, they didn't do breaking news, because they said the first one happened like around 4, but when it started happening one after the other in different cities, and then people were like, oh my God, Armageddon, what the fuck? Inexcusable. Inexcusable. And you know I speak the truth. If none of us knew something like this could happen, or probably very few of us are that kind of aware, you know, that something like this could actually happen. And I'm almost 50, but there was a woman, I believe she was like 90, and she's like, I've never heard of anything this happening, you know. We're not safe anywhere. We already know we're not safe anywhere because of crazies who want to, you know, you never know. You could be in a bank at the wrong time like those people were in Cincinnati, and 3 dead, you know, because the killer's dead too, but he shot people at random. And I don't think it was to rob. I think it was just to kill. But this can happen anytime. I could be sitting in my local library and a madman could come in and start shooting, and, you know. We could be in any supermarket. I mean, this can happen anytime. No student anywhere in the United States is safe, because you just never know what your fellow students are going on in their heads, you know. So this is the reality we live in. Well, we're simultaneously expected to just be all mentally well and you know what I mean, or else there's something wrong and you need to be pumped up with untold number of untold number of poison pills, in my biased, unwavering opinion. Like I said, I don't even really want it to have anything to do with anybody who believes otherwise. You know? You don't have to share my political beliefs, you don't have to whatever. I mean, I'm talking in my, you know, if it was someone that because that's too close to home for me. And there's no point. Again, even when I hooked up with this guy, I didn't like him as a person, the things he was saying. And he was saying really bad stuff against people like me, or have problems, or on disability, for psychological problems, things like that. People who have mental illness, he was saying really bad things about that. And of course I wasn't going to let on that I'm one of those people, you know. But that's a hookup with someone I didn't give a fuck about, you know. And it was a mutual pleasure, no fucking risk whatsoever of pregnancy or STDs on, you know. But any type of serious friend or serious more than friend or whatever, no. You cannot, there's no point. That's why I don't even know why I bother with personal lives or whatnot, but you cannot be on this end, alright, I'm on this end when it comes to psychiatric medication. If you're on the opposite end, or when it comes to vaccines or all that crap. My mom had to get one the other day, and she didn't even, like I told Joe sarcastically, she doesn't even get the kind, if you and I were so inclined to get one, they give her, at her age, to really protect her, the industrial strength one. The woman said it, the assistant said it, that you're getting that, the high dose, you're getting the stronger one than is given out to the regular people. Helpless. I'm helpless to do anything. I do everything I can to help my mom. But what's going on in her mind, and with that fucking lifetime, practically more than half her lifetime's worth of daily poison it has done to her, there's nothing that I can do about it. Like I said, everyone has their own personal stories, and yet we're all we're all supposed to be so mentally balanced, and if we're not, we've got the big pharma, we've got the brainwashed doctors, we've got the pseudoscience psychiatrists just waiting to hand us our happy pills to supposedly make it all fucking better. The end. Until the next fucking thing like this happens around the corner that I never imagined, and none of you ever imagined, most of you had never imagined could happen in a million